Hey folks, how we doing? Today's hearing of the Minnesota Senate Committee on Agriculture, Veterans, Broadband, and Rural Development is now in session. Folks, we have a busy day. First off, happy Friday. Great to see you on a Friday. We do have a busy agenda today, a packed agenda. And as I believe Mr. Roth communicated to testifiers and authors, we are going to endeavor to be efficient today. Hopefully every bill will be within 10 minutes. That's our plan. And there will be an alarm of some kind. And those of you who know me that I'm too nice to enforce it. But you might also know that Keely is not. Keely, would you practice giving the dirty look? Okay. You can't really see it, but I tell you, it's terrifying. So I encourage you all to be efficient and please hit around the 10-minute mark for your presentations today. That's inclusive of the presenter and testimony. The order of business we have today is we're going to start with Senator Kupec, Senate File 1172, then Senator Kupec again, Senate File 1706, Senator Gustafson, Senate File 1183. Senator Weber and I will both talk about the beginning farmer tax credit, and that's Senate File 1428 and Senate File 1419. And then I will talk about the Board of Environmental Health appropriation, then Senator Kunesh will talk about an issue that's related to veterans, which needs to pass through this committee. And then we'll talk about local food purchasing assistance program. Senator Draheim will talk about cell-cultured meat. Senator Westlin will talk about a Board of Animal Health dog and cat breeder data issue. Senator Dahms will talk about pesticide handlers, and Senator Rest will talk about broadband. That's our agenda for the day. Members, the bulk of these bills will be laid over, but a couple of them need to move to other places. So we will have to take a couple votes. Members of the public might realize that there aren't a whole lot of people up here today. A couple members are virtual. A couple will be moving in and out because of a concurrent meeting of the Judiciary Committee. But we do have a quorum. So we are ready to get started. So Senator Kupec, if you could please, Senate File 1172.
I'm going to just grab my laptop because I think I left my notes upstairs. Thank you.
To your bill.
Thank you. This is Senate File 1172, and what we are trying to do here is make a special account in the Agriculture Growth and Research, or the Agri Fund. This is a simple bill, but it will have a very big impact and effect, providing more money and flexibility to what is one of our flagship programs here. Agri, in short, it's an umbrella fund that houses many of the farmer-facing grants and financial assistance programs offered by the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. So just to name a few: Farm Business Management Scholarship, Biofuels Infrastructure Grants, Farm to School, support for small meat processors, livestock investment grants, urban agriculture, and even turkey lasers, your favorite, are all supported by Agri. This program was started back in 2009 with the tails of the ethanol program to advance agriculture in our state. And through investments in our state farmers, value-added food businesses, and more, we've been able to grow our economy and keep more dollars circulating in local communities. This is a flagship program for a good reason. In 2023, remember we talked a lot about Agri due to an unanticipated funding cliff faced by the program's expiration in 2025. We addressed the cliff and were able to partially address funding, but there's still more we can do to make sure that Agri is well funded and going forward. So in the bill, 1172 would make Agri a dedicated account, setting up a separate account within the Agriculture Fund and the State Treasury. Seems simple, but would be significant for a couple of reasons. First, it would ensure that money we appropriate to Agri actually stays within Agri to help farmers and others in agriculture. Surprised to learn that the last biennium we have a complete data, roughly 1 million has been or will be returned to the general fund from Agri. And we would prefer that money that we dedicate to this does not head over to do something else. That's because the grant project, if a grant project falls through, maybe someone gets sick or the rest of their funding fails, the money just now goes back to the general fund. Making Agri a dedicated account would ensure that money stays where we wanted it to stay within the Agri program. Second, this would also allow the fund to grow interest, kind of like your 401k. This would vary from year to year, but on a rough balance of 17 million, this could be a very significant amount in getting some interest. Finally, this would give MDA added ability to accept grants and gifts that supplement the work the legislature has directed them to advance through Agri. And with that, Mr. Chair, I do have one testifier too.
Thank you, Senator Kupec. President Wordish, if you would please state your full name for the record and commence your testimony when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Putnam and members of the committee. For the record, I'm Gary Wordish, President of the Minnesota Farmers Union, and on behalf of our members, I'm glad to share our strong support for Senator Kupec's bill to make Agri a dedicated account. For us, this is important and timely for a few reasons. First, because our members are concerned about the agriculture budget. That was the top resolution coming out of our county conventions last year, together with a strong farm bill, was the first special order of business passed out of our state convention. Of course, their concern and our asks are coming at a time when money is tight. We understand that. And that's why we're glad to be able to work with Senator Kupec to make this structural change that does not require an appropriation, but will, in effect, make more money available to farm to school, biofuels infrastructure grants, farm business management scholarships, and so much more. Second, this change is important because farmers are facing a lot of uncertainty. And this change will ensure that Agri has more undesignated funds to respond quickly to challenges. Just for example, when COVID-19 shut down the large packing plants, putting pressure on the already stressed system of small and mid-sized processors, the Minnesota Department of Agriculture sprang into action quickly. They created a rapid response mini-grant program to help support small processors, help small meat lockers purchase personal protective equipment for employees, and provided a matching service for livestock producers who couldn't find processing. That's the same story for piloting now popular programs to protect poultry from avian influenza and helping specialty crop and livestock producers be more resilient to drought. The tool that allowed Commissioner Peterson and his team to do this was in large part the undesignated funding in Agri. Instead of going back to the general fund, when projects inevitably fall through, this would retain that money in Agri to fund this important work. Third, and finally, a familiar frame that I know you all champion, but agriculture makes up a huge part of our economy and a tiny part of our state budget, less than 0.5%. When you all work to find funding for Agri, among other worthy priorities, of course, you should make sure that money stays there. This would ensure that and make the fund more sustainable going forward. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and to Senator Kupec and co-author Senator Dahms, Chair Putnam, and Senator Dornick for your leadership on that. I hope this proposal earns your support.
Thank you, President Wordish. Members, do we have questions or comments for the author or his testifier? Senator Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Kupec, or your testifier. So the money, if it doesn't get spent at Agri, it goes back to the Commissioner of Agriculture. What are the in relationship to purposes under subdivision 2, what does subdivision 2 say? It's not on the bill, so I don't know what subdivision 2 is referencing. Maybe Ms. Painter or someone in staff can give me some idea what subdivision 2 is about.
Ms. Painter?
Mr. Chair and Senator Anderson, subdivision 2 lists out the activities that are authorized in the Agri program, grants, loans, and other forms of financial assistance. Eligible activities include but are not limited to grants to livestock producers under the Livestock Investment Grant Program, bioenergy awards, cost-share grants for the installation of biofuel blender pumps, and financial assistance to support other rural economic infrastructure activities.
Senator
So-
Anderson.
Ms. Painter, does that mean the commissioner makes those grants?
Ms. Painter?
Mr. Chair and Senator Anderson, yeah, that means the legislature has authorized the commissioner to make those grants.
Senator Anderson, would it be prudent to have someone from MDA talk a little bit more about that process? Would you like to hear that?
Yes.
Commissioner Vauble, if you would, please. State your full name for the record and commence your testimony when you're ready.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. My name is Andrea Vauble. I serve as the Deputy Commissioner at the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. Thank you, Senator Anderson, for your question. Yeah, so Subdivision 2 lists the authorized expenses that we can use the Agri Grant Program for. And so generally we have the, it's outlined with earmarks for certain activities, things like biofuels or urban agriculture or farm to school. And then there's undesignated funds that we can use for other purposes, as President Wordish mentioned, things like our Protect Grant and some of the drought relief. So it is up to the commissioner. Then we do an RFP, a competitive grant process for those grants. We have a review committee review them, make recommendations to the commissioner, and then the commissioner generally will go with the recommendations of the review committee.
Thank you, Commissioner Vauble. Senator Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Also on line 1.1, it says form of gifts, grants, reimbursements, or appropriations. Then it says from any source. What's the definition of any source?
Senator Kupec?
Sure. Thank you, Chair Putnam. Thank you, Senator Anderson. My idea is that there may be people, companies, just people in the public who want to donate some money towards this program, so they could then donate to this, and it would stay within this fund. So.
Commissioner Vauble?
And I will just add, thank you, Mr. Chair and Senator Anderson. There's a good example of the Minnesota Corn Growers did gift about $1 million for the biofuels infrastructure grant. So that was a source that was given to the Agri Grant Program for those purposes.
Senator Anderson? Members, any other questions or comments? Thanks very much, Senator Kupec. Any closing statements?
No, I just, this is one of the great funds, and it would not be, this does a lot of good work within the ag community, and to have it go back to the general fund is really probably not what we would want as the ag committee, and also for our agricultural community that would continue the good work that it does. So,
Thank you, Senator Kupec. Senate File 1172 will be laid over for possible inclusion. Members, we are going to have a brief, I think the technical term is switcheroo, as we switch for a second to an issue in our veterans jurisdiction. And accordingly, we're also going to change the calendar, the agenda around a little bit, and we're going to move Senator Kunesh up because one of her bills is about vets as well. So we're going to take a brief foray into our veterans jurisdiction, starting with Senate File 1706. Senator Kupec.
This is cute.
Senator Kupec.
sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. These were from the, if you remember, from the Veterans Subcommittee. Those of you who are on that, this was just some technical changes that we moved out, and changes to talking about allowing the department to access a database, and also just a couple of name changes at the top just to align things up.
Members, any questions or comments for Senator Kupec? Seeing none. It was previously amended, Senator Anderson. It was previously amended. My apologies for not acknowledging as such. So we were talking about the Senate File 1706 as amended. It has already been amended.
1706. Why is the amendment in the packet?
Just for further information, in case anyone was curious, wanted to think about it.
Doesn't make sense, but.
Okay. Well, you don't have to read it. So Senate File 1706, Senator Gustafson moves that Senate File 1706 be passed and referred to the Committee on Judiciary. Any discussion? As amended? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Senator Kupec passes Senate File 1706 as amended to Judiciary. Next up, Senator Kunesh, who we believe is online. Senator Kunesh, if you could, if you're ready, could you please turn on your microphone and your camera and tell us a little bit about Senate File 2259.
Sure, I'd be happy to. This is a bill that would create, hang on one second, please. This is a bill that would appropriate money to design and construct a memorial honoring our Native American United States veterans. And this bill aims to honor and recognize the remarkable contributions of Native Americans that are serving in our military service. Their legacy has proven to be soldiers of bravery, of sacrifice, and resilience, and they are a testament to our enduring spirit and commitment to our country. From the very beginning of our nation, the Native Americans have played a crucial role in the defense of the United States, from the American Revolution, World War I, where approximately 12,000 Native Americans served in the U.S. Armed Forces, on to World War II, where the contributions of Native Americans reached new heights. It was estimated that during World War II, at least 44,000 Native Americans served, and many were volunteering, even though, in spite of all the historic injustices that they faced back here. I want to point out how important the role of the Navajo code talkers is, and I don't know if any of you saw, but unfortunately, the new administration out in Washington, D.C. have removed that information about those Navajo code talkers from public connections. And so I think it's even more important that we as a state recognize the pivotal role that our American Indians played in not only those wars, but the Korean War, the Vietnam War. And today, our Native Americans continue to serve with pride in all branches of the military. They represent a diverse and rich heritage, embodying the values of courage, honor, and duty. And their stories remind us that the fight for justice and equality extends beyond the battlefields. And so in Minnesota, even though our American Indian veterans comprise of 1.3 of the state's veteran population, our American Indians have the highest records of military service per capita. And I would appreciate your support as we continue to work on this bill to make sure that it fulfills the steps necessary to be put on our Capitol grounds. And that is my bill.
Thank you very much, Senator Kunesh, to you and to your dedicated staffer in the background.
Thank you.
Members, one quick correction. Senate File 2259 was subject of an oral amendment, so we are discussing Senate File 2259 as amended. That oral amendment happened in the Veterans Subcommittee. Members, do we have any further discussion of this bill or issue?
Mr. Chair,
Senator Anderson.
this was amended in the Veterans Committee. Is there a reason why we don't have the amended version with us?
Senator Anderson, it was oral. So,
I understand that,
it's
but
not here.
isn't there an opportunity for this to be corrected by staff?
Senator Anderson, could you explain that a little bit more, please?
It should say task force must make an artist. And I understand the amendment, but we did that the other day in vets. Well, why can't that be corrected?
Senator Anderson, apparently this is an older version of the bill.
Yeah, it sounds like we're in reverse. I understand it. Thank you.
Senator Anderson, it will be engrossed on its way out of this committee. Members, Members, any discussion? Seeing none, Senator Gustafson moves that Senate File 2259 as amended be passed and referred to the Committee on State and Local Government. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Senate File 2259 as amended has been passed and referred to the Committee on State and Local Government. All right, folks, we're back to our regular order of business. That means we're up to Senator Gustafson. Senate File 1183, nitrate provisions, well mitigation appropriation. If Mr. Eidsness and Mr. Heinrich could please come to the desk with Senator Gustafson, please. Senator Gustafson, when you're ready, to your bill, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm here to present SF 1183, a bill to continue appropriations that will help supply safe drinking water to households in southeastern Minnesota who depend on well water. This bill would continue and enhance the appropriation of $2.8 million that was included in the 2024 supplemental agriculture budget. SF 1183 would appropriate $3.866 million per year to provide water treatment systems and well repairs to low-income and vulnerable households whose water is above the safe levels for nitrate. So all Minnesotans deserve to have confidence that the water coming out of their kitchen tap is safe for their family to drink. I thank you for considering SF 1183. I'd also like to thank the co-authors on this bill, Senator Zhang, Senator Nelson, Senator Putnam, and Senator Miller.
Thank you, Senator Gustafson. Mr. Eisenus, if you could please state your full name and favorite college professor for the record.
Thank you, Chair Putnam. Good morning, members of the committee. My name is Jay Eidsness. My favorite college professor was Chair Putnam about 20 years ago, so I feel privileged to be sitting before him and everybody else this morning. I am a senior staff attorney with the Minnesota Center for Environmental Advocacy. MCEA is a nonprofit law firm and advocacy organization with over 50 years of experience advocating for Minnesota's environment and the health of its people. We strongly support Senate File 1183, and we thank Senator Gustafson and others for authoring and supporting this important bill. 3/4 of Minnesotans depend on groundwater for their drinking water, and about 1 in 4 Minnesota households access groundwater through their own well. Municipal water systems must test for a range of contaminants to ensure the water is safe before it's delivered to kitchen taps. Private wells do not have those same protections. And so it falls on the private well owners for their own testing and water treatment. And for many households, this can be a real problem. Every Minnesotan, whether they depend on municipal water or their own well, deserves to know that the water coming out of their tap is safe to drink. Now, the unique geology in southeastern Minnesota makes groundwater particularly vulnerable to contamination. In that part of the state, surface and groundwater is connected through springs, bringing groundwater to the surface, and the porous limestone connects the surface to the groundwater. The township well testing program has documented that a significant number of wells in this region have unsafe levels of a number of pollutants, particularly nitrate. Well testing is growing in southeastern Minnesota, and some of which is due to Clean Water Fund appropriations to provide free tests. But what happens if somebody gets their well tested, finds unsafe levels of nitrate, but they lack the resources to install a reverse osmosis system or repair the damaged well? And that's where Senate File 1183 steps in to provide those resources. This bill would appropriate just over $3.8 million per year to the Department of Agriculture to continue the water treatment program that began last year in 2024. It would prioritize installing treatment systems and repairing wells in low-income households below 300% of the federal poverty line, and in households with young children and expecting mothers. It would allow the Department of Agriculture to work with the Department of Health to coordinate this important public health response. The well repair element of this bill is a slight change from the existing program, which only supplies reverse osmosis treatment systems. And for some wells, it can be better to do a repair than to permanently address the contamination than to try to continue to treat the polluted water. And so that's why the language in Senate File 1183 is there to allow either approach to move forward. So now Minnesotans' understanding of nitrate pollution has grown considerably in the past few years, and the state of Minnesota is rising to the challenge to address to this issue. And there are several dimensions to this response, and this is the public health response. The 2024 supplemental budget included $2.8 million for this response, but that was just a down payment. It's critical that this legislature continues to invest in clean, safe drinking water. We should all agree that accessing safe water is essential, and Senate File 1183 is an opportunity to work together to ensure that Minnesotans aren't left behind, unable to pay the bill to protect their family. Please support this important piece of legislation. Thank you for your time, and I'm here to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Mr. Eisnice. And as a moment of chair's privilege, I just want to say it's really cool to see you here.
Right back at you. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks. Mr. Heinrich, if you could please state your full name for the record and commence your testimony when you're ready.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Putnam and members of committee. Thank you for having me here today. My name is David Henrich. I am the president of Burgess & Caswell Incorporated. We are a diversified water well contracting firm in Maple Plain, Minnesota, just west of the metro. We work across municipal, residential, irrigation water supplies, environmental drilling and sampling, and geothermal systems. So when I say diversified across the spectrum of water well construction activities, we're talking very well diversified. I'm also the chair of the Advisory Council on Wells and Borings. I work on the Workers' Compensation Advisory Council. A member of the Leadership Council with NFIB, and today I'm representing my other hat, which is the legislative chair of the Minnesota Water Well Association. The MWWA is the voice of the water well contracting industry, which, as we heard, provides a lot of the state's drinking water supplies. And really, when you think about it, 1 in 4, 1 in 5 Minnesotans directly rely on our industry for access to safe drinking water. Another thing I always like to point out about our industry is that I'm a third generation guy. My grandfather started working at Burgess & Caswell in 1949. Burgess & Caswell opened its doors in 1948. I would like to tell you that's a brag, but that's about average in our industry, which are a lot of small family-run businesses that are members of the communities that rely on our services for generations to try to provide safe water supplies. And so I always like to make sure people understand that these are real people that work really hard to try to bring good solutions to the citizens of Minnesota. I want to thank Senator Gustafson for putting forth one of the few bills I've ever seen that actually provides the financial resources that private well owners need in order to get some help and assistance and education on their wells. It's one of the things that we've not done a great job of at the state is that we've kind of relied on the contracting community to be the vast majority of the resource for these folks. And as our industry has contracted and gotten smaller, as a lot of businesses in our sector have a tendency to do, those resources have gotten constrained to the point where being an information resource is a time add that not a lot of companies have. So this bill helping in that sense is great. I think one of the things that really needs to maybe be thought about in this bill is what percentage of these funds needs to be directed to the reconstruction of these wells, because as we think about well repair, it's kind of a misnomer. Most of these wells and data provided by the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Health, will highlight that approximately less than 1% of newly constructed wells in this region have a nitrate problem in their well. They generally test well below the 10 parts limit for the water supplies. And as we look at compare that to the studies showing 10% of wells coming back with elevated levels of nitrates, it's a pretty easy picture to paint that the problem are pre-code wells. So Minnesota really addressed this problem in the 90s. And that's when we elevated our casing requirements and grouting standards for private wells. And so I've seen too many of these funding mechanisms go into aspirin-type solutions, which is what RO systems are. I mean, they're a good immediate response, but at the end of the day, they're not fixing the problem. And newly constructed wells, they solve 2 out of the 3 legs of the stool right away, in that we provide a safe drinking water resource because we're seeing the reduction in nitrates in these new wells. It's also reducing the opportunity for nitrate-contaminated water to continue to migrate into our fresh water supplies. So not only do you serve, and this is where, not to drink the Clean Water Council the task, but they missed that portion of environmental protection that new code-compliant wells bring, along with safe drinking water resources. And so making sure that a portion of this bill is directed to those activities will do two things: provide safe drinking water and provide environmental protection. And, we would advocate that, sure, you have a water well driller saying, hey, drill more wells, but in this case, it's the solution. I wouldn't have put it on suit. I wouldn't have came down to St. Paul if I didn't think that this was a serious measure that had to be considered as we advance this bill, because it's much needed funding. It's really much needed resources. And I think one other thing that our group wanted to note is that as we look at how we identify these water supply challenges in southeastern Minnesota, we need to be working with our accredited lab network that the state's established. We need to really reinforce and rebuild a much wider capability of running environmental testing labs in the state, because we're seeing a dwindling number of those labs, particularly in rural Minnesota, where they don't have the concentration of work to support some of the standards that NELAB puts on our accredited lab programs. So something in that realm would also help homeowners be able to get to fully functional testing facilities without having to ship their samples all over the state. And so with those, I would love to answer any questions that you may have on the subject.
Thank you, Mr. Henrik. Members, do we have questions or comments? Senator Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Gustafson, for bringing the bill. I just question, it says in the bill here, the commissioner must prioritize households at or below 300% of federal poverty guidelines and households with infants and pregnant individuals. And then we get some people from, a letter here from Freshwater says that 9,200 people, and I'm wondering if this is if this 9,200 people is in the southeastern Minnesota that don't meet these federal standards. Are they part of the 300% or less as far as the requirement here in the guidelines for federal poverty? Do you know if that 9,200 number fits that equation?
Mr. Henrik, you look like you're doing math. Are you able to field this one?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the bill is good and directed that we need to help the neediest first, and it also points out the most at-risk individuals that need protection from nitrate contamination. So I think, in my opinion, the intent of that language seems to really kind of get after how we should approach solving problems, taking care of the neediest first, and then working our way up the channel.
So, Mr. Chair, that we don't know if that 9,200 people that's mentioned in this Freshwater letter meets that or not. That's a number that's been thrown out there. Another question, it says that the money that the Commissioner of Agriculture gets may transfer money to the Commissioner of Health for him or her to establish and administer a mitigation program. We don't have a program like that now in the Department of Health?
Senator Gustafson, my understanding is that we've worked on similar work in the past, and that this nitrate mitigation has been shared with the Department of Health and Clean Water Fund, that there have been other resources that have contributed to this work in the past. Senator Gustafson or the testifiers, do you have any other further insight you could add?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would also echo what you're saying. I'm guessing the Minnesota Department of Health is brought in because if there are health concerns that are consistent in one particular area, they're probably going to take a look at that, and then that may lead to this, the overlap between the two agencies.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Anderson.
So will this bill be sent to Health and Human Services?
That is not its current path. We're intending to lay it over today, Senator Anderson.
What's that?
We're intending to lay it over today, Senator Anderson. My understanding is that in past years, last year we did this too, and we dealt with sort of ag-specific resources, and the aid that went to help with Department of Health went through that other jurisdiction on its own path. So it was sort of complementary paths, as I understand it.
So, Mr. Chair, there's another bill that's going through that's dealing with the same issue for Health and Human Services?
Senator Anderson, I'm not on that committee, but my understanding is that that's how it worked last year. So I'm just talking about,
What about this year?
Prior context. Again, Senator Anderson, I'm not on that committee.
Neither am I.
But I would say, Senator Anderson, we can take care of our business, which is what we're doing today.
The only reason I ask it is because it's in the bill. So
That's fair. Fair
Thank you
question,
again.
Senator.
Thank you for bringing the bill.
Members, any other questions or comments? Senator Kunesh.
Thank you. I have a question. In education finance earlier this week, we heard from the Bug School about an issue that they have up in Leech Lake about where they discovered elevated levels of PFAS in their natural well water that they used in their school. And so for the last 2 years, they've had to bring in their own water, like 2-gallon jugs every week have to be delivered to the school. And I'm wondering if you are seeing that to be an issue or a problem across Minnesota in some of these wells where PFAS is infiltrating the privately owned wells.
Mr. Eisnes.
Thank you, Chair Putnam. Thank you, Senator Kunesh, for those questions. I actually spoke with members of that school last year or thereabouts about this particular issue. And it's my understanding the contamination there is related to an old landfill that I believe the Department of Defense or some federal agency had supervision over, and that's the source of the PFAS, or at least that's what they believe at that point. There are documented issues of PFAS getting into wells. Primarily, it's in the eastern part of the metro with kind of 3M issue that I think a lot of us are well aware of. Thankfully, PFAS tends to be concentrated in particular areas associated with things like firefighting foams that was used at airports. It's not as widespread as this nitrate issue, but indeed there are PFAS problems in particular wells, and I know the Department of Health is addressing that in the eastern metro. I'm not aware of any ongoing work up on the Bug School, but I hope one day we can, make sure that we're all drinking safe water free from nitrate and PFAS.
Senator Kunesh.
No more questions, but thank you for that. I just sort of curious if we're going to start seeing higher levels across the state for really unique reasons that we're not even aware of or what we thought, would cause them. And one of the comments that the testifier shared with us is that they did kind of a deeper test on their well, and that's how they found the PFAS. And so I'm wondering if, just for my own information, sort of, like, are there different levels of testing? And like just the general testing, is that good enough to meet or discover some of these other chemicals that we wouldn't assume are in there? I mean, who would think PFAS would be up in Leech Lake, but there it is. And if that's migrating to other wells, privately owned or not, I just wonder if we need to do some deeper testing when it comes to those. So it's not a question, just a comment.
Thank you, Senator Kunesh. Would anyone like to add any information to those comments?
I can just briefly, Chair Putnam, PFAS is a unique contaminant that does require unique tests. It is fairly expensive, which is why there's some assistance from the Department of Health for the East Metro problem. I expect testing to get better as we move forward, but right now it's a separate test. It doesn't, if you're testing for nitrate, you're likely not also testing for PFAS.
Thank you, Mr. Heinz. Members, any other questions or comments for the testifier or the bill's author? Seeing none, Senator Gustafson, do you have any final statements?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. I thank you for your consideration and encourage everyone's support.
Thank you, Senator Gustafson. And testifiers, Senate File 1183 will be laid over for possible inclusion. Up next, Senator Weber, you and I talked about doing this together. I think we'll do them separately after all, if you would, please. Up next is Senate File 1428, beginning farmer tax credits eligibility expansion provision. Senator Weber, to your bill when you're ready, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members. Today, I'm pleased to bring you Senate File 1428, and Mr. Chair, there is an A1 amendment.
Senator Kupec moves the A1 amendment. Looks pretty straightforward, Senator Weber, and this is your first stop with this bill, too, isn't it?
This is correct, Mr. Chair.
Any questions or comments,
Is
members?
there amendment? Because I don't have one in my packet.
Oh, I think it's still on its way. I thought it was there already. I apologize. It's still on its way.
And Mr. Chair?
Senator Weber.
The amendment is very straightforward. It basically amends page 1, line 11, where it says individual, it now also says or limited liability company owned by up to 2 individuals who are spouses or family members, which is basically the purpose of this bill in the first place.
Members, any discussion of the A1 amendment? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Senator Weber, the A1 amendment is adopted. Senator Weber, to Senate File 1428 as amended, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a very simple bill. Basically, besides the amended language that was just adopted, we also get to page 2, starting at lines 2.30, going on to 3.30, and basically describes a limited liability company as it relates to the family farm. And in today's farm economy, we are seeing more and more transitions to limited liability corporations, and as a result, we have a need to change the beginning farmers tax credit to allow for those type of changes. And that is what this bill does. Minnesota's beginning farmer tax credit was created to incentivize farmers, to help beginning farmers through selling or renting assets, including land, equipment, and livestock. And this is a very narrowly tailored expansion of the eligibility, one that certainly makes sure that current ownership arrangements are covered by this. And for that reason, Mr. Chair, I would encourage your support of this. And I have with me Mr. Hunter Peterson, who is with the Minnesota Farm Bureau.
Thank you, Senator Weber. Members, up next is our testifier, Mr. Peterson, it is apparently.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
If you would please state your full name for the record in case any of us forgot it, and then also commence your testimony when you're ready, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Hunter Peterson with Minnesota Farm Bureau Federation. On behalf of our 31,000 family farm and ranch members, appreciate Senator Weber bringing the bill forward today. You know, I would also say, I also want to add that in addition to Farm Bureau support for adding LLCs as eligible for the beginning farmer tax credit, that our ag credit system, so Compure Financial and Ag Country, both also support the concept that we're going for here. And I know too, Mr. Chair, that you have a similar bill that the department has brought forward that I believe the committee's hearing on Monday. So just with that context, you know, I'll also add there's a variety of reasons why a beginning farmer, any farmer, might opt to structure their farm as an LLC. You know, that provides them liability protection for their personal assets. As we know, farming is unfortunately a risky endeavor. And, you know, if things go south, you want to be able to hang on to those things that you have, like your home and your vehicle. So, and as far as succession planning, you know, if the farmer, I think most farmers hope to someday pass on the farm to a family member, to a descendant. But as far as succession planning, that's another reason why someone might opt for an LLC. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Members, do we have questions for Senator Weber or his testifier?
And Mr. Chair, I believe this needs to be sent to the tax committee.
That's the plan, Senator, Mr. Peterson. I don't know if I demoted it or what that was.
Mr. Chair, I was going to say the same thing. So.
But it is nice to see that you're still acting as a CA over there telling me what to do. I appreciate that. Members, any further discussion? Closing statement, Senator Weber.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. According to my records here, I think there's about 5 minutes left in my testimony, and I do not cede them to the chair because we all know how he is. So,
Thank you, Senator Weber. So, members, Senator Gustafson moves that Senate File 1428 be passed and referred to the Committee on Taxes as amended. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Senate File 1428 as amended has been passed and referred to the Committee on Taxes.
Mr. Chair, members, thank you.
Senator Putnam of Senate File 1419.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Senate File 1419 is an extension of the conversation we've just had moments ago with Senator Weber about the beginning farmer tax credit. One of the things that I think frequently frustrates us in our work is that we talk about things that we think might be a good idea or might do good or might be helpful to people. The beginning farmer tax credit is a well-established program that has done tremendous good for farmers throughout the state. When it was initially conceived, it traveled with a certain degree of resources with it. When we funded this 2 years ago, we funded it with, I think, a $6 million cap. And that was about the level of the kinds of requests that were received over the past 2 years. However, through the process in the Taxes Committee, that cap was reduced to $4 million. And so a lot of farmers weren't able to avail themselves of this incredibly important tax credit. What the bill before you will do is it will remove that cap so that every farmer who is interested and eligible would be able to take advantage of this incredibly important program. That's the bill in its essence, Mr. Chair. And I believe we have a couple testifiers on Zoom.
Okay, we have a couple of testifiers, one on
And in person.
Zoom and one in person. So let's, I have the person on Zoom, I think, first. So Brad Kluver, if you are there, you can turn your camera on and state your name for the record and begin your testimony.
All right. Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Brad Kluver. I'm here to testify in support of Senator Putnam's bill to lift the total state cap on funding for the beginning farmer tax credit to ensure that no farmers turned away from the program. I farm alongside my family near Northfield, and this tax credit program has been significantly beneficial as I've worked to establish my operation. I grew up immersed in agriculture. After spending several years in education as a kindergarten teacher, I found myself drawn back to my roots at the family farm. And my dream now is that my own kids will share the same passion for agriculture and farming that I do, and that the farm is financially sustainable to present the best opportunities for them if they do choose that path. But no matter the support network around you, getting into agriculture and farming is not an easy venture. It's hard work, but the capital required to get into it and be successful presents one of the biggest hurdles. The beginning farmer tax credit was a critical piece in my own start on the family farm. I've been able to use the program to purchase feeder pigs, which I then raise to market. I buy around 1,200 feeder pigs every 16 weeks from another family farm that farrows pigs just outside of Nearstrand, Minnesota. The tax credit has been a key piece in those negotiations on price and my ability to source the animals from them. It's provided a tool that ensured I was competitive on securing ongoing purchases while also helping facilitate some mobility on prices when we have suppressed markets. Ultimately, the tax credit program helped facilitate and build that relationship that I now have with the family. And it's helped us both find solutions that have been beneficial to both of our respective family farm operations. Unfortunately, this past year, I was one of the farmers who was turned away from the program due to a lack of funding. And talking with Farmers Union and others, I found I was one of nearly 40% of farms that were eligible that got turned away, marking the first time this happened in the credit's history. This was challenging as these negotiations and conversations take place through the year under the assumption that the tax credit would be there upon the application when it wasn't. It led to some significant changes that were required on the tax planning for the other family and created hesitation on including that piece in negotiations on the purchase of feeder pigs moving forward. The lack of funding that the program had effectively overcome on barriers. With the lack of funding, those barriers moved back into place in a lot of regards. Continuing to find ways to bring in and keep more young family farms in the industry is a win for Minnesota and the rural communities. I very much appreciate your consideration of this bill. Thank you for the opportunity to share my support, and I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kluver. Thanks for that. Next up, and hopefully I'll get this right, Tessa Sadeh Parks.
Very close,
Okay,
Senator.
well, you can state your name and then correct me.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. For the record, excuse me, my name is Tessa Sadeh Parks. And you're not the first or last person to get it wrong. Don't worry about it. And I'm here to share my strong support for Senator Putnam's bill to ensure that everyone can access our state's beginning farmer tax credit. I'm here as a beginning and first-generation farmer, as well as the county president of rice for the Minnesota Farmers Union. I'm glad to share our organization's strong support and will refer you to the 20 agriculture organizations who've signed a letter of support for this credit in your packets. This credit is important to me because, as a beginning farmer, I hope to achieve the dream of farm ownership, and I know this credit will be an important tool. Together with my spouse, Wyatt, I own and operate WT Farms, raising grass-finished beef, which we sell direct to consumer at farmers markets. We also produce and sell certified organic hay. We benefit from the tax credit first when we received the educational credit for enrolling in farm business management. This allowed us to get that education and farm financial assistance cost-free, which was vital as we began this journey together. Right now, 2 of our 4 leases are with qualifying landowners, and the tax credit has been a big part of those conversations when negotiating our rent. As beginning farmers, we don't have a ton of capital to be competitive on price, so the tax credit helps bolster that relationship. This is essential when, as a beginning farmer, things tend to go sideways. Even more so, the tax credit has been central to our conversations with one of our landowners who wants to transition his land to the next generation of farmers. We're really lucky that he's committed to working with us and sees value in helping beginning farmers. Still though, even with that sincere interest, his main concern about selling us land is limiting his tax liability. So we anticipate this tax credit will be a big part of closing a final deal. And that would be pivotal for us. Owning farmland would allow us to invest in on-farm infrastructure like shelter, fencing, water, and the health of the soil. Even beyond that, it would help us be a bigger part of our community. Right now, we are commuting 30 minutes one way to care for our cattle. We'd love to live and work on our farm, eventually increasing our capacity to raise more animals to fuel our food shed. And of course, all these things are good for our community too. When we buy land, we'll need to build some infrastructure, or a lot of infrastructure, which means trips to the local hardware store, hiring contractors, and more. In general, beginning farmers on the land is a win for our state. We need more of them, and this credit is an important tool the state has for making that happen. But if we don't know if we can rely on the credit because the state ran out of money, that's going to put us at a disadvantage in our conversations with landowners. When we're putting together a land deal, we need a credit we can count on being there. Thank you to Senator Putnam for ensuring that no one is turned away from this credit and that we're helping new farmers like me get on the land and stay there.
Thank you. Thanks for your testimony.
Open to any questions.
On members' questions. Senator Dahms.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Senator Putnam, can you tell me, I'm familiar with the situation, and I think that this is how it was working, but the individual reduced the land rent to a young farmer, and it was like a 3-year contract. And so last year, he was unable to get credit to offset the reduction in the land rent. Is this going to be retroactive, so it'll go back and pick up some of those folks that lost that, that were unable to collect that money last year for the reduction in the land rent on the tax credit?
Senator Putnam.
Senator Dahms, that's a fantastic question and a really important concern. I have to admit, I don't know the answer. But I would like it to, but I expect that it likely doesn't. But I would assume that farmer would be eligible to apply again with this new opening.
Senator Putnam, I believe Ms. Painter has probably an answer to the question, our best phone a friend.
Thank you, Ms. Painter.
Mr. Chair and Senator Dahms, all of the sections in the bill are effective for taxable years beginning after December 31st, 2024, so they would not be retroactive.
Senator Dahms.
Do we have somebody from the Department of Ag that could, I just have a question for them, if they could come forward?
Senator James, go ahead, ask your question.
Yes.
And then
Could you tell me, I'm sure I don't have the only example of this happening. Could you tell me, are you familiar with much of that happened this past year?
And if you could just state your name before the answer for the record, that'd be great.
Hello, my name is Jenny Heck. I administer this program at the Department of Agriculture. We, like the testifier said, turned away about 40% of everyone who applied last year. And that was 235 asset owners, totaling more than $2.5 million in requests.
Senator James?
So, Senator Putnam, and I don't know if this is feasible, but because I understand where the budget is this year, but if there's some way possible to, is this going to be laid over, or is this moving out?
Senator Putnam?
Mr. Chair, Senator Dahms, it's already been through taxes, so we're going to lay it over.
Okay.
And I can say that in the conversation in taxes, the revenue estimate that we received was 2.7, was the likelihood of additional resources that would be required for that. And I can also tell you I've been fighting pretty hard for it in taxes.
Yep.
Senator
So
James?
very unlikely that we, thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Putnam, very unlikely we'd be able to get an amendment on to pick those folks up for the previous.
Senator Putnam?
Unfortunately, thank you, Mr. Chair and Senator Dahms. Unfortunately, I think that's probably the case.
Something to think about. Thank
Yes,
you.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate you bringing the bill forward.
Any other member questions? Seeing none, I will just add, I think both this and the previous bill, the transition from one farm to the next, still, we have a lot of work, I think, to do going forward on that. But I'm also very happy to see so many young farmers also, though, wanting to step up and continue on with the great agriculture tradition within the state. So, Senator Putnam, any last comments?
Thank you, Chair Kupec, and thank you, Senator Dahms, for your comments and your concern. For me, this is one of the most important things we can do this session. It's one of the most important things we can do for Minnesota agriculture. So we will continue to work our hardest to make sure that it's as real and as effective and as comprehensive and inclusive as it possibly can be. So thank you, Mr. Chair, for your attention, and members for your concern.
Okay, and then with that, Senate File 1419 will be laid over.
Thanks.
Okay, Senator Putnam, you have Senate File 1540. I'm reversing my numbers, 1540.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We can go over this one line by line in deep detail if you would like, Mr. Chair, but it is 3 lines long. Well, what this is an appropriation to the Board of Animal Health. You'll note that appropriation is blank at this point. The final number that goes in there is going to be a function of what our budgetary situation looks like when we have greater clarity on what that could be. But I will say that there are a few things more important to us right now in terms of not just Minnesota's agriculture economy, but in terms of our public health, than attending to the dangers of animal-borne diseases and some of the stuff that's happening in our livestock world. So I think it's incredibly important, morally imperative and politically necessary that we, and economically prudent, that we invest as much as we possibly can in the Board of Animal Health at a moment like now. That's really, I think members, we're all aware of this, so I don't want to belabor the point any, and that's the nature of the bill.
Okay, we have a couple of testifiers on this bill. If they would like to come up, I believe the name is Hunter Peterson.
You know, Chair Kupec, that was real close.
You'd state your name and correct me then.
Thank you. For the record, again, Hunter Peterson with Minnesota Farm Bureau. You know, I don't think I need to tell this committee how important agriculture is to our state's economy. You know, being able to respond to animal disease outbreaks, biosecurity threats, it's critical to maintain a strong and resilient agriculture sector. And with that, the Board of Animal Health plays a vital role in disease prevention, surveillance, and rapid response to outbreaks that threaten our livestock, our food supply, and our economy. And from Farm Bureau, I would say, we appreciate the operating adjustment of $367,000 in the next biennium for the board in the governor's budget recommendations, but we do think that a greater increase in funding is warranted given everything with avian influenza, H5N1, and any other animal diseases you can name. So just, I guess, I would add that I really genuinely appreciate the attention that the committee has given to these animal health issues, these animal disease issues, and appreciate Chair Putnam bringing the bill forward. It's one of the, I'd say it's the biggest threat to our industry right now. So again, just appreciate the committee's care with this.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. And next up, Bruce Clavin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Bruce Clavin. I represent the Minnesota turkey growers this morning, North Central Poultry Association. Just wanted to go on record supporting the bill and seeing that encourage the committee to fully fund the board this year, as Mr. Peterson outlined. We have a lot of nervousy out in the country in terms of the disease outbreaks. Also go on record for Minnesota State Cattlemen's Association. They've dealt with TB in the past years, and I checked with Mr. Dewar, and he wanted to read Minnesota pork producers into the record as well, that all the protein groups support fully funding the board this year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clavin. Okay, members, any questions, discussion? It's not very complicated. Okay, Senator Putnam, any last thoughts?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, committee members, for your attention to this. It's a wonderful thing when we're all in agreement and all aware that this is a really important problem that we need to fix. So that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. And with that, Senate File 1540 is laid over.
Members, our next order of business is Senate File 2430, Local Food Purchasing Program Appropriation. Senator Kunesh, if you would please tell us a little bit about the bill. And I do understand you have an amendment, Senator Kunesh?
Yeah, I do. I have the, A1 amendment, and it just makes some changes to ensure that the dollars are going to Minnesota farms and that the rate of each grant awarded under there includes administrative and transportation expenses.
Now, Senator Kunesh, this is the first stop for the bill?
Yes.
Members, any discussion of the A1 amendment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The A1 amendment is adopted. So, Senator Kunesh, to Senate File 2430 as amended, please.
Thank you. So this bill creates a state local foods purchasing assistance program, LFPA. And the objective of this LFPA would be to buy local food, primarily from limited land access and limited market access farmers, and then to distribute that food at no cost to underserved communities throughout the state. It's certainly an attempt to support our local farmers, at the same time getting those products into the homes and the families that need them the most. This bill replaces future funding for the state-administered federal program that has been canceled. we know that things are changing at that level, and this is one way to fill in the void that the federal dollars that have been withdrawn are doing. So it's intended to mirror the federal program and ensure that the commitments to new and emerging farmers are honored. Of course, we've left the appropriation blank because this bill is going to, we'll have to see what's available to put towards this whole safety net, shall we call it, and basically that's the bill.
Thank you, Senator Kunesh. Ms. Winsberger, it's good to see you again eventually, I think. If you could please unmute your microphone, turn on your camera, state your full name for the record, and commence your testimony when you're ready, please.
Hi. Thank you, Chair Putnam and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Jane Winsberger, and I have a farm by the name Tidev Farm. I'm proud to share my support for 2430, along with that of Minnesota Farmers Union. I want to thank Senator Kunesh for your leadership on this proposal. As a farmer, the local food purchase assistance program, as Senator Kunesh said, helps beginning farmers like me. So this program has been huge help in building my business and my farming experience here in Minnesota. I'll tell you a little bit about who I am and how I started farming. I started with a quarter-acre in Cambridge in 2019 without no market. So most of my produce died in the farm, but I didn't give up. In 2020, I got a contract from Good Acre with LEAF program. This enabled me to increase my production to a half an acre. In 2021, I was able to buy 3.88 acres in Oglow-Wicanabay County, then was able to grow organic food to the community. This year, I bought a 30-year acre land, hoping to increase my farming business, only to be told that the LFPA is going only for a season. It's not going to continue. Previously, it was frozen, so that gave me goosebumps. As someone who is working to build my farm business, as you have heard, I've worked from a quarter, a half, and then now 3.8 acres, and then now 30 acres. I am serious with farming, and I want to produce the food for the community in Minnesota. So I know how to grow things. That's why I trust myself. But the continued challenges has been finding consistent markets. That is a huge problem for emerging farmers, including those resources are very, very limited. With a reliable market or even better contract, I can lock in my seeds and other inputs, plan my crop rotations, and otherwise maximize my production. But without that, I could only wind up growing things that no one wants to purchase. That's a big reason that is the LFPA funds have been so important to us. They give me a certainty. But of course, that certainty was challenged, and this is a question I was talking about. With those funds who were frozen, I was kind of frustrated and was left in limbo. Now they have freed up, but I learned the program won't continue beyond this current round of funding. So Senator Kunesh, you have to, and the Putnam members, please, you have to help us so that it can continue. I appreciate that you considering stepping in to fill that gap. To close, I will say that I am proud my food is going to people who need it. And I am grateful for the support in building my farm as well. Thank you for considering this investment, and I will be happy to answer any question you have for me. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you, Ms. Winsberger. I believe our friends at the Department of Agriculture would like to say a thing or two about this as well. Commissioner Vobble, if you would, please. State your full name for the record, if you would, please, and tell us what you think.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. For the record, my name is Andrea Vobble. I serve as Deputy Commissioner at the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. While this is not in the governor's budget, we did just want to thank Senator Kunesh for carrying this and for Jane's testimony and for Farmers Union for their leadership in this bill. This is a program that we are very proud of and have seen a lot of infrastructure and good come out of it. And so we were really disheartened to see it not continue. And so we're really supportive and excited about the idea of having a state level LFPA. So just grateful to the folks here and to Senator Kunesh for her support.
Thank you, Commissioner Vobble. Members who have questions or comments for Senator Kunesh or her testifiers. Oh, but there's someone else coming up too. Would you please state your full name for the record and commence your testimony when you're ready?
Thank you, Chair Putnam and committee members for the opportunity to testify in support of Senate File 2040. For the record, my name is Amanda Nigan Crowley. I'm a fifth-generation farmer. I'm also a former mental health practitioner, and I am the co-founder and current executive director of the Village Agricultural Cooperative, which is located in Rochester, Minnesota. The Village Ag Cooperative was established based on the needs identified by the state of the Minnesota Department of Agriculture and our local public health agencies, including Mayo Clinic. These needs include an increase in specialty crop production, stronger food supply chains, community integration, increased food security for low-income households, and the need for more farmers to enter a workforce that is aging out nationwide. As an organization, we have built and now manage 6 community farms that support more than 250 families on a total of 22 acres, with a focus on supporting new immigrant groups that would not otherwise have access to agricultural land. We were awarded a USDA LFPA contract in the amount of $100,000 for the 2024 season. We spent over $76,000 directly on food procurement from our local small farms. This created a significant economic impact for the 14 participating emerging farming families and also brought thousands of pounds of high quality produce and protein to our food insecure communities at 8 locations around the city of Rochester. The fresh produce was immediately utilized by our community, where we experienced record-breaking food shelf utilization in 2024. Additionally, through this funding, we provided culturally specific crops, which would not otherwise have been available to our community. By continuing this program through this bill, we can provide secure markets and technical support for farmers as they learn the processes of building a farm business. In a high-risk industry such as farming, as we've heard across the board today, funding such as this will greatly support emerging farmers statewide in Minnesota. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and we are in support of this bill. I am very happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Crowley. Members, do we have questions for Senator Kunesh or for her testifier? Senator Anderson.
Question, thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Kunesh, would a nonprofit organization that's mentioned in the bill here as an eligible applicant be considered a local food shelf?
Senator Kunesh.
Do you want to point to which line you're reading that on?
Line 1.17.
So the commissioner may award grants to eligible applicants in local food purchasing assistant grant programs. And I'm sorry, what was your question?
The question is a nonprofit organization considered a local food shelf?
Senator Kunesh.
I would imagine that it could be.
Okay,
Senator
Mr. Chair. Senator Kunesh, I had a experience with the Minnesota Farm Bureau. In fact, Mr. Peterson who was with us in the previous testimony, was at that where we collected food from the local Cub Foods. And after the collection was done, there was 3 legislators along with county commissioners who did this. It was a great experience. We've been doing this for about 15 or 16 years. But I had several food shelves that the food was going to go to come up to me and said, how do we stop the fraud? And I said, what do you mean by the fraud? And she said, she said that there were people who come from the eastern part of the 7-county metro area out to Wright County, take the food back, and after a while they've followed these people back, and they end up selling the food to others in their community rather than utilize it themselves. And they are running out of food that they could use at the food shelf to give to those who really need it. So I'm wondering, how do we curb that situation?
Senator Anderson, that is a deeply disturbing anecdote, and I'm wondering if perhaps our friends from MDA or some other place have any evidence of the consistency or scope of such behavior. But I do want to acknowledge, Senator Anderson, that's a very disturbing story. But do we have further documentation of the, again, scope and regularity of these sorts of activities?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Again, for the record, I'm Andrea Vobble, Deputy Commissioner at the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. I agree that anecdote is quite disturbing. We have not seen any evidence of that in our current LFPA program. We ask for a significant amount of documentation for purchases and where those things are dispersed. So we have not seen any evidence of that, but I think that's something certainly that we could, that's something, depending on where in Wright County that is, that could be followed up on.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Anderson.
I think that the commissioner and your agency should take a look at this and kind of put some, maybe some guidelines or some type of restraints or recommend some language whereby we can allow the local nonprofit organizations, as mentioned in this bill, and I think as many would think a food shelf would be nonprofit, to try and curb this, I call it fraud, by taking food that's to be given to people who need it and then basically plagiarizing themselves, saying we need this food for our people, and yet now then take it back and sell it for, I mean, if you can get eggs for free and then you sell it back in your neighborhood for $6 like they're selling them at the grocery store, I think that's a little bit underhanded. So I would recommend that the agency or somebody would come forward with some kind of recommendations to put some restraints around and how local food shelves and others who are receiving this money can put a curbing to this actions that are happening. At least this is what I was told by my local food shelves, two of my local food shelves in Wright County.
Senator, again, we appreciate the concern. No one is team fraud, so I appreciate you bringing up this concern. I think Ms. Winsberger has her hand up, and as someone who does this work, perhaps she has a perspective as well.
Yes, thank you so much for bringing that one up. Sometimes as farmers, we don't know where to go, who to tell, and I think I've raised also this one on the conferences when we were there, that the money, when it goes out from the hands of the Minister of Agriculture, whoever receives it, has conditions to the farmers. So the intended farmers are not getting that help. And when we question, I think I questioned sometime, I was told that whoever gets the money can distribute to whoever wants. And this is a staff from Emerging Farmers Office told me that they don't follow up how that money is used, who gets that, and that is a very concern which is out here, but I'm glad that today somebody has seen this and has talked about it. Please, when you give this money out for the small farmers, emerging farmers, disadvantaged farmers, let us make sure that that money gets to these people, because they farm, you go to these people, they get these grants, they tell you, I cannot give you. And later on, you find out that they are receiving the food and they are selling somewhere else. So yeah, it's something needs to be really looked at so that it can benefit the people who is intended to. Thank you. Senator Kunesh, I know you're going to follow this with the Minister of Agriculture as well.
Thank you, Ms. Winsberger. Members, other questions or comments for Senator Kunesh or her testifiers? Seeing none, Senator Kunesh, do you have any closing statements? Senator Kunesh, you're muted.
Okay. Thank you, Senator Anderson, for bringing that story to our attention. And I hope that, you know, that we do have the guidelines around not reselling these kind of items. It's unfortunate that there are people out there that do that. And of course, as Senator Putnam said, none of us are team fraud. I do just want to share an email that I received back in February 26th, from somebody up in Red Lake. And she was writing about the federal local food producer assistance grant. She had a meat producer that they had set a schedule up for the entire year. And this farmer would then butcher his cows, and unfortunately, it went on hold. But eventually, the new administration kind of sorted things out. They couldn't get online. They couldn't figure out what was going on. But this particular farmer has $260,000 coming to him from the federal grant. $260,000 to a small farmer, and we've heard these stories in ag. How devastating. I mean, that could wipe out his entire ability to continue as a farmer. And so I think it's really important. This bill is absolutely vital if we need to replace the lost funds that were coming from the federal government, because not only does it boost our farmers, but it also provides this fresh, healthy, Minnesota-grown product into our communities, you know, and to the community members that need it the most. So I would ask for your support for this bill in the fullest way. And again, we don't have an amount on there, but would hope that there would be a hearty allowance for something such as valuable as this. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator Kunesh. Senate File 2430 as amended will be laid over for possible inclusion. Up next, Senator Draheim, let's talk meat. Senate File 239.
Thank you, Chair.
Ms. Root and Ms. Parks, if you'd like to come up and have a seat. Senator Draheim, to your bill when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Putnam. Members, this is the bill that we had up last year with one amendment, and if we could move the A1 amendment.
Senator Kupec moves the A1 amendment. Members, do we all have copies of that?
And Chair, while they're looking at that amendment, can I just kind of, thank you.
Please do, Senator.
So there are many different terms, nomenclature used from layperson like myself to people in the industry. So we just added or cell cultivated meat or cell cultivated poultry. Now, the debate is it really meat? Is a whole nother discussion, and I don't know if we want to go down there or not today. I know I have a time limit. But there is, throughout the industry, a real debate on, if you look at the USDA definition of meat, it pretty much has to come from a carcass. And if it's cell-grown, it doesn't come from a carcass. But that's not why I'm here. I'm not here first, we should probably take care of the A1 before I ramble, Chair.
Thank you, Senator Draheim. Members, we've all had a chance to take a peek. Any discussion? To the A1 amendment, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? A1 amendment is adopted. Now to Senate File
239
as adopted.
Thank you, Chair. So, members, last year we had this, and Chair Putnam, I think you were nice enough to put in your bill, the Senate bill, some language in it to have the department come back with some recommendations for this year. Unfortunately, like a lot of things, they got cut out of conference committee. And I'm not sure if, we did reach out to the agency earlier this week, but we didn't hear back if they had looked at it or had time to look at it. I assume they did not. And if they want to comment, they sure can. But regardless of that, why? Why are we doing this? Last year we heard from a couple different companies, if you remember right, that were trying to produce some lab grown. And unlike other states, I don't think we should ban cell cultured meat or lab grown meat, whatever we want to call it. I just want to know what we're eating. So my whole bill just talks to labeling. I think people have the right to know what they're eating. I think there's a place for this, and I'm not going to support it or discourage it. I just think our job as legislators is to protect the people of Minnesota and inform the people of Minnesota. So that's why my bill's here.
Thank you, Senator Draheim. Ms. Root, if you would please state your full name for the record and commence your testimony when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Putnam and committee members. My name is Caitlin Root, and I'm the Executive Director for the Minnesota State Cattlemen's Association. I'm here today to testify in support of Senate File 239, a bill that would ensure clear and accurate labeling of cell-cultured meat and poultry products. Our members believe it is crucial that we preserve transparency in the marketplace. Cattle producers work hard to provide high-quality beef to consumers. They are committed to producing nutritious, sustainably raised products that meet the expectations of families in Minnesota and beyond. With the emergence of cell-cultured meat products, it is vital that consumers are fully informed about what they are purchasing when they shop for meat at grocery stores or dine at restaurants. Cell-cultured meat is produced in a lab setting, much different from traditionally raised meat from family farms. While innovation and technological advancement in food production are valuable, it is important to ensure consumers understand what they are buying, especially when it may be marketed as a meat product, but is created through an entirely different process. Clear labeling is not just a matter of consumer choice. It's about fair competition. Without clear labeling, consumers may be misled into thinking cell-cultured meat is the same as traditionally raised meat, which puts farmers and ranchers at a disadvantage. Cattle producers are not scared of competition, as long as there's a fair playing field. What is not fair is to have cell-cultured meat possibly mixed in with real beef and marketed on the shelves simply as ground beef. Senate File 239 will give consumers the transparency they deserve and will ensure that the meat products they choose are labeled honestly. The Minnesota State Cattlemen's Association urges this committee to pass this important bill. It is not just about ensuring accurate labels, it is about supporting Minnesota's agricultural community and providing consumers with the information they need to make informed decisions. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thanks, Ms. Root. Ms. Parks, if you would, please. Welcome back.
Long time no see. Thank you, Chair Putnam and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Tessa Sadai Parks, and my husband and I run WT Farms, where we raise dairy steers and sell meat direct to consumer. I'm also the president of the Rice County chapter of the Farmers Union. On behalf of myself, Minnesota Farmers Union, I'm glad to share my strong support for Senator Draheim's work to ensure that consumers have the information they need to make informed decisions about where they spend their food dollar. When we sell our beef, we work hard to establish strong relationships with our customers, and I take great effort in being transparent and accountable about the way we raise our livestock and what the consumer is ultimately getting. To ensure a level playing field, I think we should strive for that transparency across our agricultural markets, and clear, informative labeling is a great place to start. At Farmers Union, for example, we've long fought for mandatory country of origin labeling, or COOL. I also believe that livestock can bring important benefits, helping to sequester carbon, improve soil health, and promote rural economic vitality. They bring an enormous amount of value into our communities. Consumers should have the right to choose to support this work. In closing, it's important to me and should be to all livestock farmers that we're able to differentiate our products from those that don't come from livestock. And I believe if you ask any potential customer, they'd want this information too. Thank you to the committee for your work on this, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Parks. We have one last testifier who is online. Mr. Gertner, if you would, please turn on your camera, unmute your microphone, state your full name for the record, and commence your testimony when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chair Putnam and members of the committee. My name is Daniel Gertner. Thank you for providing the opportunity to present testimony on Senate File 239. And thank you to Senator Draheim in particular for working with us on bill amendments that ensure consistent and accurate labeling or language with federal guidelines. I live in Chatfield, Minnesota, and am an agricultural economist for the Good Food Institute. The Good Food Institute is a nonpartisan 501c3 organization that promotes innovation and ensures a level regulatory playing field for a range of alternative proteins, including plant-based and cell-cultivated meats. Cell-cultivated meat is not here to replace traditional agriculture. It is an emerging and supplementary protein option for interested consumers. As an industry, cultivated meat can bolster our food security, improve supply chain resilience, and reduce vulnerability to zoonotic disease. Cultivated meat also uses less farming land and fresh water, reduces emissions, and does not rely on antibiotics. It is safe and thoroughly reviewed and regulated by both the USDA and FDA. About half of Americans in surveys say they're open to trying it, including consumers here in Minnesota. Minnesota is in fact positioned to be a leader in alternative proteins. As you all know well, we are a manufacturing and agriculture state with strong research institutions and industry. We are primed to grow our ag bioscience economy, and alternative proteins provide good jobs with good wages. We appreciate the measure's intent to promote transparency for consumers. We also appreciated the opportunity to work with Senator Draheim on amendments that encourage greater consistency with federal guidelines and labeling, complementing other states' frameworks. Specifically, these amendments allowed for flexibility in labeling food as either cell-cultured or cell-cultivated meat or poultry. While cell-cultured is one of the two terms currently approved by the USDA, cell-cultivated ensures that both USDA-approved terms are recognized and accepted. We appreciated the opportunity to work with the bill author and committee on amending to ensure the most consistent and accurate language. Thank you for your time and consideration, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gertner. Senator Draheim, this is just absolutely incredibly fascinating to me. And I remember when we had the hearing last time around, it's incredibly interesting stuff. And one of the issues that arose in our conversation last time was the economic and practical viability of cell-cultured meat. Is this something that is this a today issue? Is it 2 years from now? And there was some, legitimate kind of uncertainty and curiosity there. And so I'm asking this question, again, out of genuine curiosity. Do you have any kind of update? How is the industry of cell-cultured meat progressing?
Thank you, Chair. And, I think part of the problem is it's not cost-effective yet.
Right.
And, the one article I read that said there was 156 companies on 6 continents trying to develop this. So I think it is widespread. We had the NASA SpaceX mission to go up to the space station, and they're planning to do stuff on the moon and Mars, blah, 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 in the next 20 years. And one wonders, will this be the protein of the future for space? I don't know. And I'm not against it. I think everybody should produce and get creative, and Minnesota should be a leader on all forms of food. I just want to know what I'm serving my family. And then, having been in the hospitality industry for so long, I would want to make sure my clients know, my customers know what they're being served. So that's the whole intent here. I know it's a much bigger debate on a national level of what defines meat. And I'm not trying to go there. I'm just trying to be transparent.
Thank you, Senator Draheim. And similarly, I don't know that I'm going to eat it either, but I still think it's fascinating to think about. So I appreciate you bringing this up to us. Members, do you have questions or comments? Senator Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the bottom of page 1, it talks about labeling And then it goes on to page 2 where it says, it shall be the duty of the commissioner by rules not consistent with law to require that any article of food or package. And I'm just wondering if the commissioner right now makes rules in the same regard as what you're asking for in this, and will he have to make more rules?
Sure.
Senator Draheim?
And that's something that we had put in our bill last year, is for them to come up with recommendations and come back to us, Senator Anderson, for this year. But unfortunately, it got stripped out of the bill and conference committee. But I think it'd be appropriate if someone from the agency wants to come up and comment.
Mr. Chair, if that could be somebody from the Department of Agriculture or the commissioner.
So Anderson, I think they're deciding who has to do it.
They're going like this?
And if I could, while we're waiting, you know, USDA, there's about 5 different federal agencies that have all had their hand in this debate well over 12 years, from what I could see. And typical federal government, they move really slow, so.
Commissioner Peterson, if you could, state your full name for the record and let us know what you think.
Mr. Chair, Senators, Tom Peterson, Commissioner for the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. And just a couple of quick comments on this too, is like we've, had this bill before too, and we would support labeling. I think it's labeling, again, not against it. I do meet with some of these companies who are looking at, coming into the market in Minnesota, and there's some interest. There is no red meat currently on the market. There is some chicken and fish, and so looking at those possibilities, we get a very limited piece to and everything. And so, and a couple other things about the bill is that we would once you label it as meat to it comes under inspection, both with USDA and then with our department. That's why I think there is a small fiscal note. And then with the food code, we would adopt the USDA food code in their rulemaking. If we wanted to go farther than that, then we would have to go through our own rulemaking, but we would in general just adopt the USDA code, is my understanding.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Anderson.
Commissioner, so right now you defer to the federal right now rather than you coming up with rules? It says here the commissioner was going to be making rules, and so I'm just, you're deferring the rules that the FDA is coming down, or Federal Drug Administration, I should say, Food Administration is coming down with. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair and Senator, that would most likely be the way we would handle that, is my understanding in this particular situation. So, and we do that for different products too and whatnot. So I think, without seeing this again, this is not an imminent, deal that I see at the moment, but that is my understanding, is we would look at that, the federal code to do that.
Senator Anderson.
Thank you.
Members, other questions or comments? Seeing none, Senator Draheim, do you have a closing statement?
I just want to thank everybody for the discussion, thank the testifiers, thank the commissioner for coming up. I just, I'd rather get in front of something, and if we are able to attract an industry in to produce, all kinds of products, I'm all for. Even though I might not particularly care for that product, we should still try to bring business in. And if we're up front and have requirements, I think it helps the business be more efficient and in long term saves them money with labeling and packaging, et cetera. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Senator Draheim. Member Senate File 239 as amended will be laid over for possible inclusion. Next up, Senator Westlin. Welcome to Ag, Senator Westlin.
Thank you.
I see you have an A1 amendment. Should we start with that?
I would love to start with that, Mr. Chair.
Senator Kupec moves the A1 amendment. Senator Westlin, would you like to describe it? This is your first stop with this bill, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. If you could just tell us what's in it, that'd be great. Does everyone have that? Does everyone have it? Should be in our packets. Okay. Senator Westlin, what are we doing?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So basically, the A1 amendment strips out or deletes Section 3 and Section 5, which were actually the parts of the bill that created the fiscal note. So this is now not going to be a bill that requires an appropriation. It will be a policy-only bill.
You had me at free, Senator Westlin.
Just trying to make your job easier, Mr. Chair.
Members, any questions or comments about the amendment? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Because of Senator Gustafson. Senate File 1029 is amended. Senator Westlin, to your bill, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Gustafson. So members, you may recall this bill was before this committee last year with a fiscal note as well. In essence, this is a bipartisan bill, Mr. Chair, and this was brought forward to me last year and this year by the Animal Humane Society, which is Minnesota's largest nonprofit companion and animal welfare organization. Animal Humane Society operates 3 shelters in the Twin Cities area, and I know that many people in this room have likely adopted pets from one of those shelters. As noted, the A1 amendment, I believe it was, removed sections 3 and 5, which required the Board of Animal Health to post certain data to their websites. This removal does eliminate the cost of this bill. So if this committee does pass the bill, which is now in essence a government data practices bill, it will go to the Judiciary Committee. I do want to thank my bipartisan co-authors, Senator Housley, Senator Abler, Senator Marty, and Senator Bolden. We have shared this language with stakeholders, including the Minnesota Veterinary Medical Association, which, as I understand it, is neutral on the bill. And at this point, it is my understanding also that the Board of Animal Health remains neutral on this bill in terms of the policy. I have had multiple discussions about this bill, and we have attempted to put forward something that would be able to move forward this session. At its heart, this bill is about transparency in Minnesota. Kennels, shelters, and so forth, such as the Animal Humane Society and state-licensed commercial breeders, are required to be licensed and inspected. Under current law, however, the inspection reports and other data for commercial breeders are classified as private data under the Government Data Practices Act, so consumers cannot see the inspection reports even if they plan to purchase pets from a breeder. Those same reports for kennels and shelters are already public data. People want access to information that they can trust, whether they're choosing a restaurant, a hairstylist, a dog, or a cat breeder. Within your packets, you should find a chart that shows that inspection data of most licensing boards in Minnesota are public, and most boards do post that information online. This bill seeks to treat government data held by the Board of Animal Health in the same way that other data is categorized. Fortunately, the Minnesota State Legislature does have a $40 million money available for state IT projects, so that if the Animal Board of Health does determine in the future to put information on their website, they may be able to seek funding from that particular source. I do have a couple of testifiers. I know one of my testifiers is online, Mr. Chair, but again, I want to sort of bring this bill to some clarity. This is really about how we are categorizing the data of a government agency, data that had been previously carved out as being private, and we are seeking to have that data available to the public. And with that, Mr. Chair, I would like to turn this over to my testifier, Kim LeBeau, and then I believe Andy William is online.
Ms. LeBeau, if you could, please state your full name for the record and commence your testimony when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Putnam, members of the committee. I am Kim LeBeau, Public Policy Strategist at Animal Humane Society, and we strongly support this bill. Rather than repeat what Senator Westlin stated so well, I do want to point out this would apply to only about 100 state-licensed commercial dog and cat breeders. It does not apply to small breeders who are not required to be licensed by the state of Minnesota, and it holds commercial breeders to the same transparency standards as nonprofit shelters, dog and cat dealers, and other regulated businesses that Senator Westlin talked about. And I do want to say that while we encourage people to adopt, we also support people's choice to purchase animals from responsible breeders. This is a policy we've had for the past 14 years. And we do encourage people to do their research before making a significant financial and emotional investment. So this bill will allow people to have access to very important information to inform that decision. So we would encourage this committee to support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. LeBeau. We have a testifier online as well, Mr. William. Would you please turn on your camera, unmute your microphone, state your full name for the record, and commence your testimony when you're ready.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair Putnam and committee members, for allowing me to be remote today. So my name is Andy Willman. Sorry, Williams is the common one, but it's actually Willman. I am here on behalf of Rough Start Rescue. I am on the board of directors, as well. I'm the chair of our advocacy committee. So a little bit of information again about Rough Start Rescue. We are based in Princeton. We are now one of the largest foster-based rescues in the state. We have a statewide network of fosters and volunteers. Just like breeders, we are inspected and licensed by the Board of Animal Health. We care truly about all animals and hold ourselves to high standards of operations and data transparency and treatment of animals, and would like to make sure that that applies to all organizations, including breeders. We have a huge collection, a large collection of resources for adopting and fostering, and we encourage people to do their homework and where they source their animals from. So whether it is from a rescue or from a breeder, we encourage everybody to do their due diligence in sourcing that information. And a part of that, of course, is providing information, which is what this bill aims to deliver. Sometimes we do intake animals from breeders. Not in all cases, of course. Many of them are reputable and treat their animals well. We do see cases of neglect and mistreatment occasionally, and they end up in intake into our and other rescue organizations. When people don't know which breeders to choose from, as Kim stated, there are well over 100 in the state, consumers are denied valuable information, even breeders with revoked licenses. This is not a witch hunt or an attempt to broaden programs or increase revenue, as was stated last year. This is about animals and animal welfare. Therefore, we strongly support more transparency of the commercial breeding industry, so that we can all be held to the same standards.
Thank you, Mr. Willman. Members, do you have questions or comments for Senator Westlin or her testifiers? Seeing none. Senator Westlin, do you have any final statement you'd like to make?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll keep it brief. You know, our Data Practices Act does establish a presumption that data should be public and should be accessible, and that is what this bill seeks to do. I will look forward to having, I'm sure, a robust discussion about this in the Judiciary Committee, and will be returning there forthwith.
Senator Westlin, if you'd like us to come up with more questions.
Nope.
So you don't have to go back to Judiciary, I think that we could oblige.
I'd rather rip the Band-Aid off, Mr. Chair.
So, members, Senator Gustafson moves that Senate File 1029 as amended be recommended to pass and referred to the Committee on Judiciary. Discussion? Madam, would you like to testify?
Yes.
Okay, well, we didn't have anyone signed up to do so.
Oh, yes, you do. I've communicated with Nitrate several times.
Well, we don't have record of that, but please feel free to have a seat and tell us what you think. State your full name for the record. Come up to the desk if you would, please. Have a seat, state your full name for the record, and commence your brief testimony, please.
Good morning, Chair Putnam and committee members. I'm Elaine Hansen. I'm here on behalf of the Minnesota Pet Breeders Association. I must start by saying it startled me somewhat to learn that the targets of this bill are not considered stakeholders who were consulted in its development. However, I'll just address the provisions, or rather the sentiments that allegedly led to the bill being created. The proponents of this bill want to expose licensed breeders' business records to the public, supposedly in the name of animal health and consumer protection. We believe these reasons are a pretext to advance animal rights ideology. They want inspection reports published so they can see what violations occurred, whether they were corrected, and how. This is disingenuous. They know inspections are a pass-fail proposition with virtually the same standards for breeders and shelters. There's no grading system, no good, better, best. Each factor either meets standards or it doesn't, and if the latter, you will fail. Get a notice of violation, a corrective order, a time limit, and a reinspection. Inspectors cite a fail even for such things as a misfiled document that could be located in minutes. We don't take issue with the board system, but we do take issue with this private and easily misinterpreted information being made available to anti-breeder interests who wish to slander the breeding community and to the public who may misunderstand the reports. Summary data on violations for 2 years prior to March of last year show that 31 violations were cited in annual inspections of about 100 breeders. The board states that 0 of these citations were of a nature that would jeopardize the health or welfare of the animals, and all were timely corrected. The requirements of the state's puppy lemon law must be met by all pet sellers except nonprofit shelters and unregulated rescues. Breeders must provide health and background records, offer remedies, and if a pet is found not fit for breeding, they must provide reimbursement, replacement, or a refund. Those who buy from licensed breeders will get health records and other information and will have recourse without anti-breeder factions running interference for them. Pet buyers come to a breeder's facility to meet pups and parents, observe the environment, and ask questions. Customers who want details before visiting, such as inspection reports, can request them, and if not satisfied with the response, they may choose to look elsewhere. Some asked why addresses and other sensitive data were classified as private or non-public when the licensing law was passed. Pet breeders' premises are not open to walk-in traffic. Disclosing addresses, pet inventories, and sensitive business data to the public, rather than just to potential customers who they have screened, makes breeders, their animals, and their property vulnerable to damage, theft, biosecurity breaches, and physical attacks by intruders. We don't understand why anyone would want pet breeders to accept these unnecessary risks to their animals and their families. Please do not support Senate File 1029. If you have questions, I would be glad to answer them. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks very much for being here, Ms. Hansen. I'm sorry that you weren't on the agenda in the future. When the agenda is publicly posted, if you see you're not on it, holler at us and we'll get you back on it. We were following the publicly posted agenda. Members, do we have questions for Ms. Hansen?
Mr. Chair, could I just respond briefly?
Senator Westlin.
So the bill as drafted still maintains that names and addresses, location of premises, et cetera, is still private, non-public. And I would just say for the record, Mr. Chair, I purchased my dog from a breeder. I do not have any quarrel with breeders, but this is about government data and whether or not inspection reports should be available to the public. And that is all that this bill does. It makes sure that the inspection reports that are required for other types of dog and animal facilities is available to the public. It creates parity. Whether there should have been a carve-out in the past when this was originally passed in the Government Data Practices Act is sort of a meaningless discussion at this point, but I think we like government transparency, and I think that consumers who are spending thousands of dollars potentially on a cat or a dog should have access to that information. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Westlin. We return to the Gustafson motion that Senate File 1029 as amended be recommended to pass and referred to the Committee on Judiciary. Discussion of that motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Senate File 1029 as amended has been passed and referred to the Committee on Judiciary. Thank you to Senator Westlin and the testifiers. Next up, Senator Dahms, Senate File 2788. And Senator Dahms, we understand you have the A2 amendment?
Yeah. I gotta find it here. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and yes, there is the A2 amendment, and I would ask to move that.
Senator Dahms moves the A2 amendment. To that amendment, Senator Dahms.
I don't have the copy of the amendment. I apologize, right in front of me, Mr. Chair.
I think, Senator Dahms, I think we've got it, and it's your first stop anyway. Anybody got any questions about it?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I do have a copy of it. But that's not the right one.
Members, any questions about the amendment you have before you? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Senator Kupec votes to pass the amendment, and it is adopted. Senate File 2788 as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senate File 2788 is an attempt to clarify language that was adopted last year regarding the license of restricted pesticide applicators. Last session, a bill was brought by the Minnesota Department of Agriculture, was designed to make sure Minnesota remains in compliance with the federal EPA requirements concerning restricted use pesticides. The end result of the bill is that the individuals who assist licensed applicators in mixing and loading restricted use pesticides must now hold the same license as the applicator. Senate File 2788 changes this requirement so that as long as the assistant is operating under the direct supervision of the licensed applicator, the assistant would no longer be required to obtain a license. And today, Mr. Chair, I have Mr. Bruce Clavin as a testifier.
Mr. Clavin, if you could please state your full name for the record and commence your testimony when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Bruce Clavin. I represent actually three classes of affected parties here. I represent some farm groups, Minnesota wheat growers and the sugar beet industry. Also the aerial applicators, the spray plane operators under the Agricultural Aircraft Association. And then finally, some commercial folks, the Senex Harvest States Managers Group. And all three of those are different license categories. And I want to thank Senator Dahms for carrying this and you, Mr. Chairman. Also want to thank Ms. Painter because we're trying to thread the needle here between federal compliance and what actually goes on out in the field. And it's a difficult issue. And she worked with me on this bill going through the Code of Federal Regulations and so forth. So I want to thank her for that because this has been a little tricky. So as Senator Dahms mentioned, the stuff that was passed last year, you'll find in your bill lines 1.7 to 1.14. That was new language last year, brought by the department to be in compliance with the feds. And I want to be clear that we need to remain in compliance with the feds. And so we don't want to try to skirt that. But we're trying to make this a little bit more practical in the field. And so the end result of that, and none of us cared in the audience last year because it was federal conformity, and so we just left it at that. But the end result now is that the folks who help load the sprayers have to get the same license as the operator. So one way maybe to think about this for everybody is we've probably all been to the dentist, and the dentist has an assistant helping with the cleaning and the procedures. And what changed at the federal level is now the dental assistant has to get the same full-blown dentistry license as the dentist, him or herself. That's really what's happened here. And so out in the field, when you operate a sprayer, you unfold the booms, you're out in the field. You don't want to fold up the booms to go back and fill it. And so a water truck, someone operating a truck with water and the chemicals comes and follows you and fills you up when you run out. That's under the supervision that we're trying to get at here. That handler, that mixer and loader, now has to get the same license. And really what you do out there is hook the hose up, and you might hand the chemicals up to the sprayer in the tank and dump them in. You may do it yourself. And so we're trying to do this so that out in the field you wouldn't have to get a full-blown license. A practical application would be a college kid comes home for the summer, works at the co-op in town. They would have to get fully licensed now under what was changed last year. We don't know if this is really, the final answer here, Mr. Chair, but this is our effort to try to thread that needle. And the key phrase for us would be in line 1.20, under the supervision of. And so if you're operating the sprayer in restricted use, you have to be licensed. And if you have someone helping you directly under your supervision, that would be in compliance. And that's what we're trying to do here. We've been talking with the department. If there's further work here, certainly we'd want to do that. But that's where we are today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clavin, for your clear explanation. And also thanks for appreciating Ms. Painter. She's very good at what she does, and she needs to hear that more often. And I'm saying that because I know it makes her feel uncomfortable. Members, do we have questions or comments for Senator Dahms or his testifier? Seeing none. Senator Dahms, do you have any closing statements?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair and members, for hearing the bill, and I hope you will consider it for inclusion.
Thank you very much, Senator Dahms. Senate File 2788 as amended will be laid over for possible inclusion. Folks, we do have to do a quick procedural intervention. In some of our earlier work today, we goofed when we moved some of the veterans provisions from our committee to their new homes. So we're going to have to go back and do a little bit of that real quick, if we could. So Senator Gustafson moves to reconsider Senate File 1706, Senator Kupec, and it's moving to judiciary. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Senator Kupec moves to adopt. Senator Kupec now moves to adopt the subcommittee report on Senate File 1706. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We have now adopted the subcommittee report on Senate File 1706. Now, folks, Senator Kupec moves that Senate File 1706, as amended, be recommended to pass and be re-referred to judiciary. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Senate File 1706 has been passed and re-referred to judiciary. Now, members, Senator Kunesh moves that Senate File 2259 be reconsidered. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Oh, sorry, premature knock. Opposed? None? All right, thanks. All right, we're now reconsidering Senate File 2259. Senator Kunesh moves to adopt the subcommittee report on Senate File 2259. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Senate File 2259, that motion is successful. And last, Senator Kunesh moves that Senate File 2259, as amended, be recommended to pass and be referred to the Committee on State Government. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Senate File 2259 is on its way to state government. Thank you all for indulging us in that procedural intervention. I appreciate your patience and your deep enthusiasm when you vote. Members and members of the public, we're going to go on recess for a little bit as we wait for our last bill author to appear for the day. So for now, we are recessed to the call of the chair. This committee is now back in order. Our next and last order of business for the day is Senate File 2045. Senator Rest, to your bill, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate File 2045 is named the Equal Access to Broadband Act in the language. And I'll just briefly, if I may, just tell you what's in each section, what is before us. And then I have two witnesses that we'd ask to come forward and testify for the in favor of the bill. we are looking for a way to provide sustainable funding for quality community television, which in my own area is superb community television in terms of its quality. And I am fortunate that that CCX covers all of my constituents, my whole district. Every community in my district is reached by them. Section 1 is a definitional section, and it modifies the definition of broadband to make sure that it offers a person or a company high-speed internet and removes references to telecommunications capability. Sections 2 and 3 are also definitional sections. Section 4 subjects local governments, franchising, or other municipal authorization to be coordinated with relevant local government units to minimize potential future relocations. Section 5 allows for a local franchising authority to require a broadband provider to comply with terms under the relevant regulation. Section 6 includes broadband as one of the many services subject to municipal franchising or other municipal authorized requirements, including local regulations. Section 7 discusses right-of-way, the right-of-way definition, and clarifies that telecommunications service does not include cable service or broadband service. Section 8, telecommunications right-of-way users are authorized to conduct business under state law or by the FCC license to operate above and under public rights-of-way. Section 9 outlines how a local government may recover its management costs through fees for registrations, permits, and et cetera. Section 10 addresses additional right-of-way provision, and it specifically prohibits unlawful discrimination and preference to users and erecting an unreasonable requirement for entry. And it deletes previous language that was that's in statute to fees. And then Section 11 grants powers to change and alter public ways and grounds, and with the power to franchise occupants and users of public rights-of-way to receive compensation and regulate streets and other public grounds. Minnesota has been a leader in franchising, starting with the 1973 Minnesota Cable Act, which was later used as a model for the Federal Cable Act in 1984. It was the original equal access law, ensuring the same level of cable service would be available to all residents of a city. And we believe it is now time to refresh the franchising law in Minnesota. It will allow cities to continue to receive other public benefits such as access television. This is a bill that is simple in concept, but the language is very technical. And with regard to questions on the technicalities in the language, please ask either the testifiers and/or Senate Counsel. So the goal of this bill is to ensure equal access to broadband to the maximum extent possible, Mr. Chairman and members, and I appreciate your willingness to begin the conversation about equal access to broadband. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator Rest. Mr. Bradley and Mr. Callister, if you'll both please come to the desk. If you'd state your full name for the record and commence your testimony when you're ready, please.
you, Senator Rest. Thank you, Chair Putnam and committee members. My name is Michael Bradley. I am a partner in the law firm of Bradley Werner. We're a firm that represents local governments throughout Minnesota and the country. The Equal Access to Broadband Act recognizes that it's time to refresh the state's local franchising laws. Cable franchising has been successful, but I think we all recognize that broadband is the future in communications, which is why the refresh is needed. A core principle of franchising is the public rights of way is a scarce public resource, and it is a valuable privilege for a limited number of private companies to use for the delivery of communication services to residents. As such, we believe it is bad public policy to give away public property and good public policy to require a fee in exchange for the valuable privilege. Franchising recognizes the importance of getting all of our residents served, which is with the same quality of service throughout our areas. And cable franchising did just that, and it's a good model. We should recognize the need for long-term protections of our residents, particularly at a time of historic public investment in broadband. The state will be giving $650 million in grants. It's also a time when the broadband industry is seeking tax relief, sales tax relief, and relief from safety standards. That's a lot of asks with not a lot of protections. This bill also recognizes, as Senator Rest says, that franchising brings public benefits such as access television, which is very important. For those concerned with ensuring affordable broadband, please know we are willing to work on effective solutions to ensure broadband is affordable to all residents, especially those in need. We do not expect franchising to slow down deployment of broadband in Minnesota. Obviously, cable franchising was very successful in ensuring widespread deployment. That said, we are committed to developing a model franchise by the effective date of this legislation to ensure there are no delays in construction. The goal of equal access to broadband is not partisan. It's not controversial. The way to achieve it is through a proven method, and that's franchising. We thank the chair for hearing this bill and Senator Rest for her leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. Mr. Callister, if you would please state your full name for the record and commence your testimony when you're ready.
Mr. Chair and committee members, thank you for the opportunity to testify today. For the record, my name is Dave Callister, and I am the city manager for the city of Plymouth. I'm pleased to be here today to testify in support of Senate File 2045, the Equal Access to Broadband Act. This bill is important to cities. It will allow for local franchising, which will help prevent digital discrimination by broadband companies and will enhance digital opportunities for all residents. Cities know the value residents put on broadband and the expectation that they have the same quality of service no matter where they live. Through cable franchising, we have protected consumers and have required uniform delivery of cable services to our residents. As more people make the switch from cable subscription to streaming services, it is imperative that we advocate for residents to have similar protections. Broadband franchising will replicate the success of cable franchising, ensuring consumer protections, equal access to the same quality of services, and the continued provision of important public benefits. Broadband fiber optic internet installation is underway in Plymouth. Several companies have completed installations in selected areas, but only one company has completed citywide installation. So Plymouth residents are at the mercy of one company to provide broadband services. Without franchising, there's no guarantee of equitable build-out or uniform quality of services to all residents. It should be noted that the use and occupancy of the public right-of-way is a scarce and valuable resource that is made available to private communications and utility companies to operate their businesses. The value of this privilege is not declining, but I can tell you that the shift from cable services to broadband services is resulting in an increased burden on the rights-of-way and a decline in franchise fee revenue. Local media, such as the programming and content produced by CCX Media, is essential to maintaining an informed and civilly engaged community. Thanks to CCX Media, residents in 9 Northwest metro cities have access to city council meetings, coverage of community events, local news, high school sports, and other pertinent community programming. And in addition to the cable channels, this programming is available for free online and through a variety of streaming services. This is particularly important at a time when many local newspapers are reducing circulation by charging subscriptions or simply shutting down. To provide transparency and to ensure communications to our residents, we need to adapt and find a solution. The Equal Access to Broadband Act will modernize franchising to allow cities to franchise broadband companies to ensure all residents have equal access to the same quality of broadband service no matter where they live. It will also continue to provide public benefits such as local media and other programs to promote digital equity and civic engagement for our residents. We enthusiastically support Senate File 2045 and ask you to adopt this legislation. Thank you to Senator Rest and for the leadership in moving this legislation forward and for the opportunity to testify today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Callister. We do have two other folks signed up to testify, but only seeing one of them here. Brent's online. Ms. Wolf, if you would, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. For the record, my name is Melissa Wolf, and I'm the Executive Director of the Minnesota Cable Communications Association, or Minnesota Cable. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. Minnesota Cable represents cable companies who are proud to serve residents of Minnesota in every corner of the state, from Schoberg's and Thief River Falls, SCI and Hinckley to Midco and Fairmont. Collectively, Minnesota cable companies provide high-speed, reliable broadband access to over 1.5 million residents in the metro, suburbs, and rural Minnesota. Everyone in this room understands that reliable, high-speed internet has become an essential service in modern society, and Minnesota is on the verge of achieving universal broadband access. Senate File 2045 would stop Minnesota's progress towards universal broadband dead in our tracks and make broadband more expensive for the citizens of this state. The bill authorizes a new 8% local tax on broadband and broadband-enabled services. This bill was touted as the Equal Access to Broadband Act, but none of the hundreds of millions of dollars that would be raised by this new broadband tax would further any cause that makes broadband more affordable or accessible. 5% would go to local governmental general funds, 3% would be dedicated to public educational and governmental, or PEG, access television programmers. At a time when consumers' concerns about inflation are sky high, all this bill does is increase the cost of a basic necessity for consumers. The combined stacking effect of these new local broadband taxes will result in cost increases passed on to consumers on multiple services. These would be regressive taxes hitting low-income rural households and young consumers the hardest. After Congress failed to renew the Affordable Connectivity Program, or ACP, last year, other states are looking for ways to keep internet access more affordable. Minnesota is the only state looking to increase the cost of internet service. As both testifiers just mentioned, Minnesota cable members must already obtain a cable franchise and pay franchise and PEG fees that support PEG access programming, and we are proud to do so. In 2023 alone, Minnesota cable members paid over $45 million in cable franchise and PEG fees to communities across the state. The bill violates federal laws and FCC rules prohibiting local governments from assessing duplicative franchise fees and from regulating cable broadband services. Courts have struck down local governmental attempts to franchise cable broadband services. In addition, the National League of Cities and the National Association of Telecommunications Officers and Advisors have made attempts to overturn this rule at the FCC and in Congress and have gained no traction. In short, requiring franchised cable video providers to obtain a separate broadband franchise is illegal under federal law. Lastly, lawmakers in the Minnesota House of Representatives last year removed this bill from the Commerce Omnibus Bill on the House floor, citing that it was not ready for prime time. This bill was not ready last year, and it's not ready this year. Minnesota has long been a leader in broadband deployment and accessibility. This bill takes us backwards. Minnesota should be finishing the job of achieving universal, affordable broadband, not halting broadband deployment and widening the digital divide. Thank you for the opportunity, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Wolf. I see Mr. Christensen is actually online. If you could, Mr. Christensen, please unmute your microphone, state your full name for the record, and commence your testimony when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, good afternoon. For the record, my name is Brent Christensen. I'm the President and CEO of the Minnesota Telecom Alliance, or MTA. The MTA is a mix of cooperatives, family-owned, privately held, and publicly traded broadband providers throughout Minnesota. In addition to broadband, MTA members provide traditional landline telephone service and broadcast television, which you may know as cable TV. I'm here in opposition to Senate File 2045. And that said, I completely understand the proponents of the bill's position. They are losing PEG fee revenue at an ever-increasing rate. In addition, as a former mayor, I understand the desire to take control of something as important as broadband in your community. Cable TV franchise fees are decreasing as people cut the cable cord. MTA members who offer broadcast television service are seeing this happen almost as fast as consumers are cutting their landline telephone service. A few of my members are actually getting out of the broadcast TV business after decades of service. And while adding a new tax or fee to broadband subscribers will help cities, it's counterproductive to the state's goal of border-to-border broadband. Municipalities need to get creative, just like we did in the private sector, whether it's selling ads or putting commercials on city council meetings or whatever it takes. And I used to brag when I was the mayor that our city council meetings were the highest rated TV show in our time slot, except during Monday Night Football. While I understand the desire to control the deployment of broadband in the community, there is no way that we can make that work when we have a state office of broadband development. The reason that we have cable franchises is because there is no state cable office. So it's done at the local level. Broadband's done at the state level. Individual municipal franchises will add more work on the Office of Broadband Development, who's working diligently with providers in the federal government to ensure that all Minnesotans will have access to quality broadband. Finally, Mr. Chair, the added fee on consumers' bills will tip the affordability scale in the wrong direction, and affordability is just as important as access. Broadband subscribers should not have to foot the bill for cable TV programming. That just doesn't make sense. I ask that you oppose this bill, and with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to stand for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Christensen. Members, questions, comments? Senator Dahms.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. And Senator Rest, I'm not sure who would be able to answer this. I'll ask you. If this bill passes, will that have any impact on the federal BEAD funds that we've already received from that the states already received to expand broadband?
Senator Rest, it looks like Mr. Bradley would like to handle that question for you, if that's acceptable.
Fine.
Mr. Bradley?
Mr. Chair and Senator, no. It'll have no impact on the BEAD funding.
And will, Mr. Chair?
Senator Dahms.
Will the $650 million of grants you're talking about coming to Minnesota, will this affect those in any way?
Mr. Bradley.
Mr. Chair and Senator, no.
Senator Dahms.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you.
Members, any other questions, comments? Senator Rest, do you have any closing statement you'd like to make?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much. I have a long history of, very long history of David versus Goliath with regard to cable companies. I don't know if I'm going to win this one, but I certainly won the first one. We woke up one morning and saw off of our deck this hanging wire. And we said, what in the world is that? And it turned out that the cable companies wanted to string their wire from telephone poles that were, because we were on water, they were close up to the house. And we organized our neighborhoods and approached the cable access company or organization and said, these wires need to be buried. And of course, the cable company said, oh, no, no, no. They're on NSP at the time. They're on their poles, and we can use their poles. And so we went down to Hennepin County, the property tax records, went over every single house that was on that route, and guess what we found? One of them did not have an easement. And so that homeowner said to the cable company, I'm sorry, you can't put your wires across our property because NSP doesn't have that easement here. And guess who won? Cable was buried along our property and our whole neighborhoods, and we did not have those hanging wires 5 feet away from our decks. And just another comment, I can't imagine anybody coming into the Senate and saying what good things, quite frankly, with all due respect to them, ever happen in the House of Representatives. So that's my final comment. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members, for your indulgence.
Thank you very much, Senator Rest. I will say, take a moment of sort of chair's privilege to say that it's hard for me not to see you as a Goliath in virtually any circumstances, and I wasn't surprised that you won it all. Senate File 2045 will be laid over for possible inclusion. Thank you, Senator Rest. All right, folks. Hey, thanks for hanging out this Friday. It looks like we're all done with our business for the day. We do have a very busy full day on Monday. It is that time of year. But have a great weekend. We'll see you then. We are now adjourned.